Gracias. Buenas tardes. You can do better than that. Buenas tardes. That's what I'm talking about. I want you to put your hands together one more time for our friend Claudia. And we need to thank her, not just for what she did today and what she brought us together for, but a couple of things you may not be aware of. Claudia has also been an instrumental key player in helping us make sure that we can. She talked earlier about the African American Museum in D.C., the Smithsonian. You may not know that she was helpful in making sure that we now will be building a national American Latino museum on the National Mall. So we can commemorate the over 500 years of Latino contributions to the shaping, the building, the defending of this country. So thank you for that. She's also agreed to be on advisory council for a nonprofit that I started. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I created a nonprofit called the American Latino Veterans Association that will help with workforce development, entrepreneurship, ensuring they have access to benefits like mental health and suicide prevention and housing, and we can start to tell the stories of Latino contributions to our military from 1776 to today. We're going to be telling those stories through videos, podcasts, and more. You can be part of that. I'll briefly talk about what we learned today about work and the economy. We are essential and vital to our nation's future. Hispanics are driving labor force growth. It's an economic and national security imperative that we make sure Latinos are represented in our economy. We know that the wage gap is real. It's only getting marginally better. We are 18% of the workforce today, 30 million people. Will be 78% of the net new jobs between 2020 and 2030. We know that we are also essential workers. Where I live, in Fairfax County, Virginia, we are about 17% of the population, but we were 66% of the COVID-19 cases. 2/3 of the COVID-19 cases, because we're out there as essential workers. But we need to do a better job of making sure that we have access to better jobs, better paying jobs, better pathways to a better future. The keys to that are going to be education and training, both for degrees as well as credentials and certifications and preparation so they can be job ready. It's about apprenticeships, it's about internships, it's about making sure that they are ready to join the workforce. We also need to make sure our young people are aspiring towards the best version of themselves that they can be. That means making sure that we inspire our young people. We can make sure that they can see that the American dream is real for them. Go out to schools, go out to junior high schools and high schools and speak to these young people and let them know that they can make it too. And I think for us to be able to reach that goal, we need to be prepared, and we need to talk about the different ships. We need to talk about mentorship and leadership and sponsorship and representation and having relationships that can actually help us get to that next level. In terms of the economic growth, we know that Latinos are going to be a driving force for business startups. If we're going to recover from the COVID-19 economy, it's going to be on the backs of Latinos and Latino-owned businesses and Latino workers. We know that from the fact that during the period from 2010 to 2020, Latinos created 34% net new jobs when the rest of the economy was doing only 1%. I'll leave you with this last thought. We heard earlier from the Stanford program. That Stanford program is all about making sure that we can scale our businesses, and one of their mottos is that we should do business with each other and get business for each other. We will only get there, we will only get to the top of the mountain if we get there together, and we need to stand on the shoulders of the people that come before us and leave a legacy for those that follow. God bless you. Thank you all so much.
Quality education. Good evening, good afternoon, Patricia Mota. I'm incredibly proud and inspired to be here. I am Latina, Mexican-American, the proud daughter of immigrants, and proud of being first-generation college student, professional, nonprofit executive, and startup co-founder. I do all that I can to try to justify the sacrifices that my parents have made for my siblings and I do the same to help others. And education is one way of achieving that. The education goal to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Equity, being resources, tools that help meet students, individuals where they are. And inclusion, ensuring that there's an environment where all feel that they belong. The areas to stop pushing college only, ineffective programs, stop doing what we're currently doing. Stop drawing hard lines between us. Stop only considering FAFSA as the only way to access financial aid. Stop stigmatizing mental health as a topic that we can't talk about. And stop assuming low expectations of our young people. And to our employers, stop recruiting at the same Ivy League schools.
Yes.
And areas to start, I broke them down into 5 areas. 1 being engagement, 2, building leaders in education, 3, offering resources and programs, 4, innovating and pivoting often, and 5, aspire and inspire. 1, engagement. HSIs, I did not see that many hands up when we were asked the question regarding your familiarity with HSI. Familiarize yourself with Hispanic serving institutions and ensure that they are being funded. Offer wraparound services from mental health to parents and students engagement opportunities. Engage with community colleges. A majority of our Latino students are attending community colleges. 2, building leaders in education. Build the pipeline of Latino and diverse teachers. Ensure Latinos and allies serve on school boards. And make the right investments in cross-sector collaborations. Invest in data-driven initiatives. 3, offering resources and programs. We talked about apprenticeships, skill building, such as the one offered by IBM. Offering financial resources and awareness, free college applications, simplify and improve the FAFSA process, offer peer-to-peer mentorship, bring programs directly to individuals, meeting them where they are, and offering opportunities for individuals to achieve in their education. Offering development opportunities such as unwritten rules, meaningful networks, financial literacy, elevator pitch. And most importantly, one thing that I did not hear that I think is equally as important is helping break the digital divide that became more evident, especially as we experienced the pandemic. And 4th, innovate and pivot often. We talked about planning ahead, thinking of jobs of the future, teaching entrepreneurship, trying new things, and innovating often. And lastly, number 5, aspire and inspire. We have to see the potential of every single student, every single person, and it starts with each of us. Share your dreams and aspirations, and we must amplify one another. I am committed to leveraging this network, the Hace Familia is your familia, to support Hispanic Star, the Hispanic Promise. We are here to serve our mission of helping ensure that we are positively impacting workplaces by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent. Juntos hacemos más. Together we do more together, and together we will shine. Thank you.
We switched up the order a little bit, so I'm 3rd instead of 4th. I'm Delia Gutierrez McLaughlin, Principal Engagement Leader for the Amazon Web Services, as well as a member of the Strategic Committee from the first year. So glad to be here. My session that I covered was good health and well-being. So first of all, let's take a moment to acknowledge and applaud our health workers at the front line who have worked tirelessly to keep our communities alive and to return them to their families and their communities. I think that's something we should really celebrate. So let's talk about first the statistics and the facts. We talked about in this particular session about Latina nurses that are paid 70% less than their counterparts. 1 million nurse shortage in 3 years, and under 6% of that are Hispanic nurses. From a mental health perspective, there's lots going on there, with the suicide rate for 10 to 14-year-olds having tripled. The diabetes rate, 5 times that of white Americans. And with 4.4 Latinos suffering from arthritis, 2 times likely to become disabled. And that's because part of that is because of vital and evidence-based information reaches us slowly and quite often too late. So with all of this going on, what do we need to do differently? Well, from the education vertical, we're going to change the way that patients are treated. And we can only do that if the representation on the provider side are those that look like us. So for what I want to say today is, if you want to change the face of the game, then you need to change the pipeline of those going into those medical fields. We must change the way we educate. The environment is quite different these days, and we create a bigger pipeline. Enhancing that pipeline will create hope for the future. We talked about the 50 scholarships that are being awarded with Northwell, which I think is a phenomenal, great start, but it's the beginning, not the end. And we have to look at how we train people to be innovators and to change the way that healthcare is delivered. So how do we combat barriers facing Hispanics with healthcare? Well, we need to make sure that everyone has access to those federally funded programs such as Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera, the translation assistance that was talked about. And we need to be active on policy. In other words, we need to reach out to our governmental leaders to engage. We cannot just sit by the sidelines anymore. We have to be front and center for what we want, what we deserve, and what is equitable and fair treatment. So we need to build trust and communication with our communities. So we really need the public and private to come together to detect trusted actors that provide evidence-based information all year long, and not just when the Delta came about or now Omicron. It is all the time. So what do we need to do more of? Well, what we've been trying to do, but we need to continue to progress down the road, is outreach. Not waiting, as we talked about, for applicants to put in applications for nursing or for medical fields, et cetera, but reaching out and partnering with key high schools, exposing men and women, young men and women, to nursing and to medical fields as well. And to help with that administrative process, you know, there can be so much said for mentoring. Mentoring is not just getting me into school, it's keeping me into school, it's getting me into my career, it's helping me through when I pivot in my career, and so forth and so on. So what do we need to do? From a prevention perspective, from a health perspective, we need prevention in schools. The earlier, the better. This starts from pre-K to middle school, to high school, to college, to when we get in those careers and we think we know everything, to as we pivot in our lives. From a community perspective, we need to start there as well. We need to get to the parents, to the caregivers. One thing that I saw in this session was a strong commonality, and that was that collaboration made a huge difference. Outreach was important. And responding to that new normal. In other words, we can never take our foot off the brake. While we have made progress, we know much progress is to be made. So reaching out and starting to family connectors, as we've talked about. So all of us must take action. Action, and not just one-time action. Repeatable, scalable actions. Reaching out on all fronts. We know we have a voice. We have one voice. We can make a heck of a difference. So. And lastly, we know that disinformation kills people, and evidence-based has to be married with emotion and trust. All in all, we can be one band, one sound, and we can be a collective voice, and that collective voice equals action. And as we have said many a time today, together we conquer, together we shine.
Yes. Hola, hola. Hola, Hispanic Leadership Summit. How are you? I'm your last speaker standing for the day, so please give me some love. My name is Gabi Natalia. I'm a Triple Emmy award-winning journalist, and I have the honor today to be your rapporteur on gender equality, which is a topic I am very passionate about. So at the tops of today's concern are financial, education, and cultural dynamics that create systemic barriers for Latinas, both at home and outside home. At home, Latinas are disproportionately responsible for family care and household obligations. On average, we spend 7.5 2.2 hours per day doing unpaid work inside our homes. Hombres, you need to step up. This burden of unpaid work increased dramatically during the pandemic when schools closed, making Latinas the demographic group most likely to exit the workforce during the health crisis. These cultural patterns have gone unchallenged for decades as generations of Latinas were raised to believe, mistakenly, that calladita te ves más bonita. Outside our homes, Latinas face additional challenges. Systemic inequalities include occupational segregation, the Latina Pay Gap, which by now we should all know it's 57 cents per dollar, and a dramatic underrepresentation in leadership roles. As we heard today, Latinas account for less than 1% in corporate senior positions, less than 1% of elected officials, and less than 1% of venture capital money for their startups. Despite all of this, Latinas are rising. There are key areas we can see tangible progress. Latinas are becoming increasingly educated. Over the past decades, the share of Latinas with college degrees has doubled, and 9 out of 10 Latinas finish high school. Latinas are also remarkably entrepreneurial. Our resourcefulness and self-reliance have enabled us to create businesses 6 times faster than any other group in the United States. Based on everything we heard today, how can we help this dynamic, this vibrant segment effectively break the barriers when it comes to gender equality? These are some of the proposals and the ideas that we heard today. Peer-to-peer collaboration, community building, corporate leadership programs, visibility to positive role models, and something as simple as having a Latina friend as your +1 in a panel or as your +1. In conclusion, we're living in exciting and challenging times. It is still up to us to redefine what is possible for Latinas. So many of us, Latinas, have been hearing our mothers and our abuelas that if we worked hard, if we sacrificed enough, everything is possible. If we set our mind to something, everything is possible. How can we keep that promise alive for the next generation of Latinas? That is the question we need to find out. Because for too many Latinas, the pandemic was a painful reminder that they can make the right choices, do the right thing, and still find themselves with a short end of the stick. We can't allow that to happen again. We're at a crossroads, and we must take concrete action now to break the cycle of underrepresentation and inequality for the next generation. As we heard today, by 2016, Latinas will represent 1/3 of the total female population in the United States. This is not, as we heard, a Latina problem, this is an American problem. And as we heard, if we help Latinas and we help women, we help the world. We are the most impactful yet untapped human capital in the United States. So before I leave you, mi mensaje para todas las Latinas: tenemos el talento, tenemos el potencial, tenemos el corazón, y si luchamos unidas, tenemos la victoria. Gracias.
Thank you so much. That's a wrap. This is it. The only thing that I need for you from day one is take take yourselves to come to the center, take a banderita, lo que quieras. We're going to take a group photo here, so people just like start getting into the drinks. Just come to the center so that we can capture you all. Thank you so much, everybody. Last photo of the day before you drink. Thank you.